Look at all the information you have here. Atomic numbers, symbols, and the names. There is no reason to misspell an element name. And then you have a lot of information here, all right, about each element. When you're comparing one element to another, mark up the table or take the numbers from table S and put them with the choices on the test. These will be easy answers as long as you take that extra step. We are going to look at a bunch of questions that relate to reference table S, the periodic table, and maybe even some of the other tables for the regions. Let's look at number 1 here. Which substance cannot be broken down by chemical means? The first thing, hopefully you recognize that this is going to be a definition for an element. Now, you'll notice that the choices are all names. They don't give you the formulas. They're not going to make it easier. Right away, the answer is going to be number 1. Now, how do I know that? Well, aluminum is an element. It's just good old Al. You can check it out, play the matching game with reference table S. Ammonia is NH. Oops, I meant NH3. 4, that's a compound. Aluminum oxide, metal nonmetal, that's a compound, that's Al2O3. And ammonium chloride, that's a compound as well. Reference table S, remember you have the names and the symbols. That's handy because a lot of times you're given the names, but you need the symbol to figure out the answer. All right, let's go to number 2 here. Element in group 14, period 3 is classified as. Well, let's go back up. Group 14, period 3. Okay, group 14, period 3 is going to be silicon. Silicon is on the staircase. Boron, silicon, arsenic, tellurium, and then germanium and antimony are your semi-metals or metalloids. Location, location, location. Let's go back. And sure enough, for question 2, the answer is choice 3. For question 3, which element has chemical properties that are most similar to potassium? Chemical properties are going to be similar for elements in the same group. That means column. Now, if you forget the symbol for potassium, you go to reference table S. Play the matching game. Potassium is element K. So I'm looking for another element that is in that group or column of the periodic table, which happens to be group 1 when we take a look. And then you have to find for the 4 of these. If you don't know the symbols, find the symbols first and then go to the periodic table to get your answer. Well, the 4 choices: calcium, cesium, nitrogen, sulfur. Oops, sorry about that. Sulfur. But we were looking what's most chemical similar to cesium, and that happens to be, to potassium, which happens to be cesium. And that's our answer. Question 3, and the answer was choice 2, cesium. For question 4, which electron configuration could represent the electrons in a sodium atom in an excited state? All of the electron configurations that are written on the periodic table are for the ground state. So we want the same number of electrons for sodium. We're going to get that from the atomic number. And then we want it to look different than the ground state. The reason why I have this here again with reference table S is if you don't know the symbol for sodium, go to S first to get the symbol, then go to the periodic table. Okay, sodium is symbol Na. Now I'm going to go to the periodic table and get the electron configuration. Here we have sodium, element 11, so 11 protons, and if it's an atom, 11 electrons, 2, 8, and 1. That is for the ground state. Let's compare it to what we have for the choices. From the periodic table, ground state is 2, 8, and 1. That adds up to 11. Can't be number 1. That's not enough electrons. Can't be number 2. That's ground state. We need excited state. 2 plus 7, which is 9, plus 1 is 10. That's not enough. So the answer here is 4. You have an electron that's been promoted from the second level into the third, which puts it in the excited state. 2 plus 7 plus 2 equals 11. For number 5, what is the number of valence electrons in a nitrogen atom in the ground state? Again, I put this with reference table S because if you don't know the symbol for nitrogen is N, then you want to go there first and double check. Then you're going to go to the periodic table, find N, and find the number of valence electrons. Let's go. Here's nitrogen. There are 2 ways we can figure out valence electrons. For groups 1 and 2, and then 13 through 18 if you drop the ones. The group number, again, 15 drop the one, tells me I have 5 valence electrons. That's the outermost electrons for nitrogen. Or you can just look at the electron configuration, and whatever numbers all the way to the right, that's your valence shell or valence level of electrons, which is 5. The answer then for question 5 is choice 1. Question 6, you're directed to table S, so that makes life a lot easier. But now you have to know that an atom of which element has the strongest attraction for electrons in a chemical bond is for the term known as electronegativity. The electronegativity, either the word or the definition, I guarantee you're going to see on your Regents exam. They love dealing with electronegativity. All we need to do is take these 4 elements, look them up, and we're looking for the highest electronegativity value. Fluorine, you might remember from class, is the most electronegative, but let's check these out. Okay, I just found electronegativity. I circled the 4 choices for aluminum, chlorine, magnesium, and sulfur, and sure enough, chlorine has the highest value at 3.2. That's your answer. That means it was choice 2 for question 7, which was chlorine. Now, for question 6, I'm sorry. For question 7, now, which element requires the least amount of energy to remove the most loosely held electron from a gaseous atom in a ground state is the definition for ionization energy. You're going to take these 4 choices now and find the lowest value for ionization energy. Okay, I marked up the table for the sodium, argon, phosphorus, and chlorine, and lo and behold, sodium has the lowest value for first ionization energy. That's your answer. Question 7 then, the answer was choice 1. Question 8, here we're dealing with a measure value for the atomic radius of platinum atoms, determined to be 143 picometers. Based on table S, what is the percent error of this measured value? Well, we need reference table T for the percent error calculation, and we need the actual value for the atomic radius on table S. Let's do that first. All right, so here we are, reference table S. We had to go all the way down to find platinum. 130 is the atomic radius. The percent error calculation is here. The 143 was the measured value. The 130 is the accepted value over the 130 times 100. So I'm going to subtract 143 minus 130. And don't just do it in your head, please. Use a calculator, even if you think you know all the calculations. You have 13. You have 13 divided by 130, and then you have times 100, and you get an answer of 10%. Take the calculator out, do it now, make sure you get 10% as your answer, and let's go back and find the choice. There it is in question 8, choice 3, 10%. Percent error calculations aren't hard. You just have to make sure you know what's the measured value and then what's the actual value. Sometimes instead of measured value, they might use the words experimental value or student value. Instead of acceptable value, they might use true value. So just make sure you're putting the numbers in the right place. For number 9, as the first 5 elements in group 14 are considered in order from top to bottom, there are changes in both the, and we're taking a look here. We got to look at the number of valence shell electrons and the number of first shell electrons, electronegativity values, and the number of first shell electrons, the number of valence shell electrons, and atomic radii, or electronegativity values and atomic radii. So we're looking at, it looks like 4 different things: valence shell electrons, first shell electrons, electronegativity values, and atomic radii. Now, I can tell you that we're definitely going to see changes in electronegativity values and atomic radii. You might not know that, but let's go back and look first at the periodic table as far as valence shell electrons and first shell. Okay, when we're looking at group 14, we're looking at carbon, and down this column, every single electron configuration is starting with the number 2 electrons in the first shell. Then, if you look at the very last shell, that's the last number to the right, every single one has the number 4. So they say constant as you go down. What is not going to stay constant is electronegativity values, ionization energies, atomic radii, and densities. And those are all on reference table S. If you weren't quite sure, real simple, you would take at least 3 of the elements in the column, look up the numbers on reference table S, see what's happening, and then go ahead and answer the question. Or you could use process of elimination, and since you know the number of valence shell electrons stay constant, can't be choice 1. For choice 2, again, first shell electrons stay constant, can't be choice 2. For choice 3, it can't be the number of valence shell electrons, they stay constant. So the only choice it could be by process of elimination then is choice 4 as well. All right, we have some of the, the short answer type questions. Make sure that you're answering the question. In number 10, it says state both the number of protons and the number of neutrons in sulfur 33. The 33 is a specific mass number for sulfur. That's the number of protons and neutrons. For sulfur, you look up the atomic number, whether you do that on reference table S or the periodic table, and it is element 16. So the number of protons is 16, and you would write that out. Now, for neutrons, it's 33 minus 16, which is 17 neutrons. Again, it says to state both. Make sure you do. Let's go to number 11. Compare the density of nitrogen gas to the density of argon gas when both gases are at 298 K, 101.3 kilopascals. Now, density is listed on reference table S. That's where we need to go. All right, I circled the density for nitrogen, the density for argon. I suggest you do the same. They are small numbers, right? Because they are gases typically at STP. You'll notice that nitrogen, it's 0.0011 and argon 0.0016. So nitrogen is less dense than argon, or you could say argon is denser than nitrogen. Make sure you get both of them in there. Okay, for question 12, it says state in terms of. Anytime you see in terms of, please make sure you have whatever it is, in this case, valence electrons as part of the answer. It says why the noble gases that Sir Ramsay discovered have similar chemical properties. Well, I think what I did when I cut and pasted this, I forgot the little blurb above, but any group of elements means a column of elements, in this case, the noble gases, which are the group 18 elements, starting with helium, are going to have similar chemical properties because the number of valence electrons are the same. However, the valence electrons for helium max out at 2. When you go with neon on down, neon, argon, etc., they max out at a number of 8 valence electrons. All right, so neon on down is easy because they all have the same number of electrons, which is 8. Helium also has similar chemical properties, even though it has 2 valence electrons, because it's maxed out the first level of electrons, okay, in an atom. And those are the valence electrons. Okay, let's go to 13. As the elements in period 2 are considered in order from lithium to fluorine, there is an increase in. So lithium to fluorine means we're going across the table. Now, what you can do is you can just pick a couple of elements, maybe lithium, which is Li. You got your fluorine. Maybe do, I don't know, maybe nitrogen in the middle. Pick them out on the periodic table. And then we're looking for an increase. What's increasing? And you're going to find the atomic radius for those 3 elements on reference table S. What you're going to find is as you go across, the atomic radius goes down. Now, for electronegativity, however, as you go across, electronegativity increases. Well, I know that because I would look them up on reference table S, and I also remember that fluorine on a scale of 0 to 4 is a 4.0 as far as electronegativity. So as my elements are going towards fluorine, they are increasing in electronegativity values. Okay, the number of electron shells does not change as you go across. You're just adding into that same shell. And the number of electrons in the first shell, that's already been filled. So that's not changing either. So the answer here for 13 was 2. And then finally, for 14, it says compare the first ionization energy of argon to helium. You have to go to reference table S for this, and let's do that now. All right, I got them marked up on reference table S. Helium has a higher first ionization energy than argon. That's really all you have to say.